Let me tell you about two honest and hard-working men. How honest and hard-working they are, you would be able to figure out in just a few moments. Ghisu and Babua were kabadiwalas, scrap dealers. They had a small shop in Phoolganj market right next to an open drain. They worked hard all day, roaming the dusty streets of Karnal, going from house to house, collecting old newspapers and cardboard boxes, and scrounging some money. And whatever little money they managed to earn was taken from them by those wicked money lenders. Poor Ghisu and Babua, their life was not going as planned. And maybe that is why they took the drastic next step, which was going to change their life as well as mine. Hello and welcome to the next episode, the third episode of Vicky and Sunny Adventures. It was afternoon. Ghisu and Babua were in their shop, lying on their floor, trying to fall asleep. But for some reason, the sleep just wouldn't come. Maybe it was the humid heat, or maybe it was steam from the open drain that flowed by the shops. But they were uneasy in mind and could not just doze off today. A truck came to stop right across the road from Ghisu and Babua's shop. Ghisu opened his eyes a little bit. Who could that be? It was the middle of the day, and during this time the Phoolganj market was relatively peaceful. All the suppliers had made the delivery during the morning, and the evening crowds were yet to arrive. So who could that be? A few men jumped out from the truck and started to drag something heavy, something large. Ghisu was now excited. He nudged, he prodded Babua, who was lying next to him. Hey Babua, I think we are getting a new hoarding today. Right across from Ghisu and Babua's shop stood a large hoarding displaying advertisements. And today it seemed the hoarding was going to be changed, an exciting event. Ghisu said, well, we are getting a new hoarding today, Babua. Babua said, already? Didn't they just change it? Ghisu said, what? Are you kidding me? Have we not been staring for 3 months at the same old stupid ad, the urea fertilizer ad? Every time I look at the hoarding, I see that buffalo staring down at me. And I ask you, why have they put the photo of a buffalo in a urea fertilizer ad? What does a buffalo have anything to do with urea? Sometimes it feels that buffalo is staring at me, looking at me, and sometimes I feel it would come alive and jump out of the hoarding and land on my chest. Babua said, well, at least it is better than that underwear ad, isn't it? I mean, which man wants to look at another man dressed in underwear all day long? Ghisu spat on the floor. That's right. What horrible ads we get, either a urea ad or an underwear ad. Ghisu was now properly angry. He sat up and shouted at the men who were working across the road. Hey, I hope you are not going to put the underwear ad next, are you? The men who were working across the road took absolutely no notice of Ghisu. Ghisu shouted again, don't you have some better hoardings? Some with beautiful heroines or something? The men continued to work and continued to take no notice of Ghisu. Ghisu lay back down. He was worried. Last week his wife had given him her jewellery to get them polished. He had set out from the home, but midway he got a call from his friend. We are having a game of cards by the rickshaw stand. Want to come? Previous week, Ghisu had lost a lot of money in the card game, and so he said, "Yes, I will come." Ghisu vowed to win back all the money he had lost, and so he joined the game and quickly realized that the gods of fate were still not his friends. Game after game, he kept losing money till he had lost all of his wife's jewelry. And last night, his wife had found out what Ghisu had done and issued an ultimatum: "Get back my jewelry, or I'll go back to the village to my father's house and you will rot here. And I will get my brothers to beat you up as well." Ghisu was worried. How will he get back her jewelry? Ghisu said to Babua, "Are you awake?" "Mm-hmm," Babua said. The men across the road were now taking down the old hoarding. Ghisu said, "Why do you think we get such horrible ads placed in Phoolganj market? I mean, all over the city, they place beautiful ads, beautiful women selling jewelry, selling beautiful saris. Here we have fertilizer ad, underwear ad." Babua said, "Well, I think some marketing research." "Marketing research?" Ghisu said. "Yes, they have probably done some marketing research. They think that the gentry that comes to Phoolganj market is probably interested in only these products." Ghisu was annoyed. "Are you saying that all the sahabs and madams that come in their big cars and go and shop in the air-conditioned showrooms here are just interested in underwear and fertilizer? Is that all they do? Buy underwear and then put fertilizer in their gardens?" Ghisu was getting worked up and Babua said, "Why are you shouting at me?" Babua had problems of his own. The doctor had told him his father needed an urgent cataract surgery. But that was 2 years ago and his father was now half blind. Every morning, every evening, his father kept muttering, "What a useless son I have got who cannot get his father's eyes operated." Babua thought angrily, "Well, stupid old man. He has probably seen all that's worth seeing anyways." The men across the road had now put up the new hoarding. Ghisu looked at it and suddenly gave an exclamation of surprise. "Babua! Hey Babua! Look at what they have put up." Babua opened his eyes as well. Ghisu said, "Isn't that the same brand the foreigner drinks?" On their rounds daily, they sometimes visited the house of a foreigner who lived in a nearby colony. That foreigner used to drink a lot, but only the choicest and most expensive whiskies and beer. All that Ghisu and Babua could do was stare at the numerous bottles outside his house thirstily, with jealousy. And it seemed that the foreigner drank that particular brand, so it must be good. Ghisu smiled when he looked at that hoarding. He smiled as if the men who were now putting up the hoarding, once they had put up the hoarding, would get down and give a bottle to Ghisu in appreciation of all that he had done. Ghisu turned to Babua and said, "Hey Babua, buy me that brand, won't you? What do you say?" Babua said, I will just go to my treasury, open the safe, withdraw a few gold coins and give it to you. Would that do?" Both Ghisu and Babua became sad. Ghisu said, "What rubbish lives are we leading? Tell me, Babua, when would we lead a good life? All our friends are now placed in such high jobs. And look at us. What are we doing?" Babua said, "Well, they all had good references, don't they? If we had such good references, maybe we'd be in good jobs as well." Ghisu shook his head. "You know this world? I don't understand this world. keeping honest men like us just down. They don't want honest men like us. Ghisu and Babua were lost in thought when a tractor came and stopped outside their shop, and out jumped Chutan. Chutan walked with a swagger and came to a stop in front of Ghisu and Babua and sat on an upturned bucket. Hello, Ghisu and Babua, looking very pleased and excited today. Did you win some lottery or what? They looked at Chutan sullenly. Don't joke, Chutan bhaiya, don't joke. Our lives are pathetic. What happened? All we do all day long is either work hard or run from our money lenders. And the people who owe us money, they say, come tomorrow, come next week. Babua said, even you, Chutan bhaiya, even you have not paid us since last week. Chutan said, is that so? He thrust his hands inside his pants pocket, took out a thick wad of notes, counted 5 or 10 notes and handed it to Babua. Now tell me, Babua, full and final done? Don't you say that Chutan has not given you money. But Ghisu and Babua were staring at the thick wad of notes that Chutan was holding. Did you carry out a burglary? Did you rob anyone, Chutan bhaiya? Chutan said, don't talk nonsense. I started a new business and it's raining money. Ghisu and Babua said, well, tell us what you are doing. We are dry here as well. We also want to get wet in the money rain. Chutan said, I don't think you two are capable for it. But Ghisu and Babua begged, please, Chutan bhaiya. Chutan said, all right. Order me a few samosas and khastas and then I will tell you. Babua said, bhaiya, if we had money for khasta and samosa, won't we be eating it? Even the cockroaches and rats of our shop look at us with pity. We can't feed you any samosa. Chutan said, what useless people you are. Alright, never mind, you two are like my brothers, so I will tell you. Tell me, can you get your hands on some copper? Copper? Yes, copper. Haven't you heard that the rate of copper is sky high these days? It's all in the newspapers. Babua said, well, we don't really get time to read newspapers, you know. Chutan said, oh really? Very busy, are you? Well, take my word for it. If you can get me copper, I'll make you rich. Babua said to Ghisu, I'd heard that gold was surging. I hadn't heard about copper. Chutan said, forget gold. Where would losers like you see gold? Where will you get gold? Focus on copper. It's all around you. That exactly, Babua said. Am I going to tell you everything? If you have some brain, for the love of God, please use it for the first time in your life. I can promise you, if you can get copper, then your lives will change. Anyways, load my tractor and I will go and have some samosas and khastas. Chutan walked away, skipping happily, and Ghisu and Babua just stared after him. That night, when Babua returned home, he found that his home was shrouded in darkness. Babua lived in a very dilapidated old building which housed almost 20-25 families each with their own room. Every one of his neighbors had lights switched on in their house, but inside Babua's house, it was all just darkness. Babua's father sat outside his house in the portico and dressed just in undergarments and fanning himself with a hand fan. Babua said, why is it so dark inside? Babua's father turned his head upwards and gave him a very angry look. The electricity department came. They raided everyone who was siphoning off the electricity legally. They disconnected the connection and said that next time they would put us in jail. Babua pursed his lips, said nothing, and stepped inside his house. There he was welcomed by a wall of mosquitoes who buzzed happily around him. The mosquitoes had been biting his family all day long and had probably gotten bored, and now here was the fresh meat, and so they attacked him happily, buzzing all around him. Babua fought and waved his arms and tried to change his clothes. Anyways, it was dinner time. Babua sat on the floor eating food while his father lay on a cot on the other side of the room. Babua's sister cooked rotis and fed him. Babua's father said, "Do you know, Chaurasia's son came today? He brought a box of sweets." Babua said, "Really? Why?" "You know they have a plot in phase 2. They have started the construction work of their house in that plot." Babua said to his sister, "Show me that box of sweets. Let's see if there is anything good in there." Babua's father said, very sarcastically, "What kind of a man are you, Babua? What kind of a man are you? That Chaurasia's boy is 3 years younger than you, and he already owns 2 houses. Every one of our neighbor has coolers, has fans, and we are sitting here in darkness. How can you eat his sweets?" Babua said nothing, just stared down at his plate. After his family had gone to bed, he stepped down from his house, breathing in the night air. And suddenly he saw someone arriving by a motorcycle. That motorcycle came to stop right next to Babua. It was Chaurasia's son who was riding the motorcycle. Babua stared at the motorcycle. He said, "Is this new? Is this yours?" Chaurasia's son folded his hands very politely and said, "Namaste, Babua Bhaiya." Babua asked again, "Is this motorcycle yours?" "Yes, Babua Bhaiya, it is mine. I have just bought it with your blessings." Babua said, "What blessings? When did I bless you?" No, Babua Bhaiya. It is only by the graces of our elders do young people like me are able to progress in life." Babua felt so angry that he thought his heart would explode. He thought that the best thing to do right now was to just stay silent. He said, all right, see you tomorrow." "Babua Bhaiya." "What?" Babua said. "Tomorrow the girl and her family are coming to see me for wedding." "So," Babua said, "could you help me move the divan to the drawing room?" Babua said, all right, let's go and move the divan." 45 minutes later, both Ghisu and Babua were sitting near a railway crossing, their usual haunting place, on a boundary wall, drinking cheap country liquor. They were saying nothing. They were lost in their thoughts, and they had finished almost half a bottle. They saw people around them crossing the railway crossing, and they said nothing. Finally, Babua broke silence and said, Ghisu Bhaiya, do something, I cannot bear it anymore. Either I will break someone's head or I will jump from somewhere. Do something, Ghisu Bhaiya, do something." Ghisu said nothing. He was staring in distance as if lost in a memory. He said, "Babua, Do you remember last year when I got locked up? Babua said, What? What? Yes, I mean, when you went to the village and split open your brother in law's skull? Then, yes, Babua, then I got locked up for 15 days. Don't you remember? Babua said, Yes. Well, most of the inmates in the jail were like me. Some were there for 15 days, some were there for a month. But there was one man in there who was there for 1 year. He was a very big man. Everyone respected him. One day, I finally worked up my courage and went and sat next to the man. I asked him, Sir, what do you do? How have you become so big, so influential? Babua was listening very closely. Ghisu seemed to be going somewhere. Ghisu said, Babua, can you see these railway tracks? Babua said, Yes. These railway tracks run for thousands and thousands of miles. And do you know what runs along these railway tracks? A signal cable. A signal cable runs along these railway tracks. And do you know what that signal cable is made up of? Babua said, I don't know. Copper, Babua, copper. Babua said, Oh. Ghisu said, That man had a simple job. Cut the copper cable, sell it, and become rich. And by doing simply that, he had become a millionaire. A millionaire, Babua. Just cutting copper cables. And an idiot like me forgot everything that he told me that day. Now think about it, Babua. If we go and steal from someone's house, what happens? That family raises hell, runs after police, and the police is forced to find the thieves. But what happens if someone cuts the signal cable? No one cares. The government just comes and replaces the signal cable. That is what happens. A report is written, it is filed somewhere, and then it is forgotten. It is the most elegant and the simplest of crime, Babua. Babua said, So, do you think we should cut the signal cable here? Ghisu said, What? You are a bigger idiot than I am. The whole world is passing by us. How can we cut the signal cable here? No. Outside the city, by the highway. Have you seen that Kali Ma Mandir? Babua nodded. Right across the Kali Ma Mandir, there is a forest, and a railway track runs through the middle of the forest. No one comes there. No one goes there. What do you say, Babua? Babua was now thinking. The whole day he was thinking about so many things. And both Ghisu and Babua had by now drank almost 3/4 of their bottle. And something strange happens when a man has drunk at least 3/4 of a bottle of cheap whiskey. He becomes a little bit like Superman. And by now, both Ghisu and Babua were like Superman. They were not afraid of the world. They could take on the world. And so, Babua said, All right, Ghisu bhaiya, I'm in. Let's do it. And Ghisu smiled at Babua, and both clinked their bottles and downed the rest of the whiskey. The plan was made. But the story continues and will continue in the next episode. Till then, goodbye.